The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. You're welcome to Leadership Podcast. It is yet another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, today we don't intend to take much of our time because we have a very special guest on The Big Issue. And of course, the big issue of the day is APC, PDP, much ado over mode of primaries. And of course, it has to do with the misreactions that have trailed the endorsement of direct primaries by the Senate, which involves the election of candidates for political parties by all registered card-carrying members. And of course, when the Adams Oshomole-led National Working Committee of the APC decided to use the direct primaries to conduct its election to choose the party candidate, not many clapped for the party for the party leadership when it comes to do with that process. And of course, a option was openly adopted in some states. And in most of the states that option was adopted, it created serious bad blood and controversy. And of course, most political parties reverted back to the indirect primaries that had always been used. But the indirect primaries had been criticized as one that does not reflect the wishes of the people or members of the party. So the Senate yesterday approved it as part of the electoral laws that political parties in the country should adopt direct primaries in its election to choose its candidate. Well, we have a guest on the studio. We're talking of Awal Musa Rafsanjani. Is the chairman of Transition Monitoring Group and the executive director of Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC. Awal, you're welcome to The Big Issue.
Thank you very much, and good evening.
Yes, we just wanted to get your views on this mode of primaries, the direct primaries as approved by the Senate yesterday. It's like the political parties are not really comfortable with that mode of primaries because both the People's Democratic Governors and the All Progressive Congress governors kicked against it yesterday. What is your view or your take on direct primaries? Are you in support of it?
Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of Nigerians have expressed concern over the way and manner in which party primaries are holding in this country, without actually, allowing members of the political parties to really play a role or to partake. Just some few cliques will sit down and decide who will emerge as party, candidate. So therefore, many party members have been agitating for greater role that they can play to ensure that their support or their candidate who will emerge based on popular support has been given the opportunity to, they have been given the opportunity to participate in how the candidate will emerge. So for many party members across the political parties, they are agitating and they welcome this development by the Senate. And this is what has been actually a reflection of the public hearing. During the public hearing at the National Assembly, many Nigerians, many stakeholders, they actually came and advocated for the indirect, for the direct primaries, so that, the good federalism and all those political stumbling block will be eliminated.
You can ask any question. Go ahead. Hello? Well, it's like we're having some technical issues here at the studio. I think we'll get him back. We'll get him back. We'll get him back. Oh, okay. Okay.
It seems, Mr. Sanjani, that the members of PDP and APC in the National Assembly have a different view about these direct primaries from their governors. Why do you think that is so? Because this law was passed by both, PDP and APC lawmakers. Why is that? It seems to be the party, the governors or the parties that seem to be, up and in arms against this new law.
Well, it's like we have lost Mr. Rafsanjani here. It's like we've lost him. Well, Silas, while we wait for the network to be to improve, you see, both the APC and the main opposition party have expressed misgivings about the decision by the National Assembly to mandate political parties to adopt direct primaries in selecting candidates for election. In the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, it passed yesterday. Why are governors of these two major political parties afraid of this process? Do you have any idea?
The government has not really given their true reasons for that, but you can find from the body language and what has happened in the past about the way the governors have manipulated the parties during the primaries to get their own preferred candidates as candidates, aspirants as candidates of the party. And the governors are emperors, kind of emperors in the states, and the whole party structure is always under the governor's control. So, and also they have the war chest, the state government purse to use the money as they fit. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be so, but everybody knows in Nigeria's politics that the governors use the money as they wish because the state legislators are less than rubber stamp. We are complaining about the National Assembly of this 9th being rubber stamp. Nobody has talked about the state ones. The state legislators are just, most of them are just mere in name. Most of them are people that the governors have eroded into the House of Assemblies, and they in fact, if government says jump, they don't even say where, they just say how high. So because of that, governments have a way to disperse the state's resources as they wish, and they have deployed these resources in political maneuvering of the system by playing godfather to all the candidates that could come through them to make sure that become all the aspirants, make sure that their own preferred candidates in all the elections from council to presidency are people that they put so they can control them really. And with this and then and with this, if you have a limited number which the indirect system gives us, have a few people, they shepherd them like new chickens, they quarter them somewhere, they pay them off, and they just, but from where they cocoon them, they just send them to go and vote. But they even have the vote. Sometimes they even even their voting card is taken from them, and the parties, the candidates are already failed. They just go there and put it in because the government has already taken over the whole thing, paid them off, and told them what to put. Even before they come, told them even emerge to reach to that level because the governors accepted them to be there. So it is this reason that it's possible that the governors are feeling that if they have everybody taking part, it will be more difficult for them to control the crowd that will come to vote. In that case, they may not be able to have their will all the time. So I think that is it will meet godfatherism and the bribing of candidates. In fact, I think if you look at what happened in elections in Nigeria, it became a bazaar. Some delegates were talking about going home with thousands of dollars, and that is what. But if you have a direct primary system, it is less likely that the governors will have enough muscle to bribe everybody to go their way.
Well, you see, Chibuzo, you've heard what Silas has said. That many believe that the process will limit the influence of godfathers on the shadow polls and foster popular participation. And of course, there's this belief that it will also increase the participation of women and youths in the process. But above all, I think what most Nigerians are really harping on is that the process will help check godfatherism, enhance intra-party democracy, and reduce the commercialization of elections in Nigeria. Do you share that view also?
Yeah, I want to be optimistic that it will aid in these directions. If the indirect primary system is also practiced as it ought to be practiced, some of these things that you mentioned too couldn't be an issue for why we are switching. So my emphasis more would be on the practitioners and those who manage the process. That has always been the concern. No system in itself is bad when it comes to at least the direct and indirect thing. They are both
That are good points.
good vehicles on how to arrive at the destination. But who drives the vehicle is the problem, and how he maneuvers the vehicle has always been the problem. So even with the direct primary that is being proposed now, you can be sure that if the political practitioners, with the kind of mindset they have, set at cutting corners and retaining power, if they continue to project that kind of mindset, you can be sure that you might have the same scenario all over again with just like we are complaining now with direct primaries. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's like our guest is back talking of Awal Musa Jani, the chairman of Transition Monitoring Group in the country and the executive director of CISLAC. Mr. Rafsanjani, you are welcome back to the big issue.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the internet
There's
connection
a question you're
challenge.
putting on to.
Yeah, I was asking that it appears that the governors of the two main parties that variance with their lawmakers in the National Assembly who have opted for direct primaries. They want direct primaries. The governors are saying no, they don't want it. Why do you think the governors and their lawmakers seem to be at variance on this particular issue?
1999.
Did you get the question, sir?
Hello? Hello? Hello?
You can go ahead, sir. We can hear you.
We can hear you, sir.
I'm saying that the governors are resisting this simply because they feel it is their birthright to dictate who will emerge as any political electoral position in the country, whether senator, whether House of Rep, whether local government chairman, whether councillor. They determine and decide and impose those people without following due process, without also allowing party members to have a role. That is why they are fighting, very hard to ensure that this tradition, is retained. But I think the overwhelming popular support or popular, demand by Nigerians, they want this kind of dictatorial, tendency to, be eliminated so that, political party members can have a role of how they can elect their members in various position, electoral position in the country. I think the National Assembly, they have also realized that this is a popular demand by the Nigerian people, and if they do anything, they will actually go in a very bad record as lawmakers. And a lot of the political party members in their various constituents, they may not likely going to vote for them. So that's why they have to take the decision, which is being anchored by popular demand from the different, stakeholders in the electoral process in Nigeria. I think it is also important that the governors, they understand the sentiment, the growing sentiment against their continued dictatorship, imposition, and godfatherism that they have continued to do under the democracy since 1999. They need to understand this strong sentiment. They need to understand that Nigerians are not happy, and they always blame them for failure of whatever had happened because of the role, the strong role that they have in terms of imposing candidates?
Well, Mr. Rafsanjani, you know very well that now that the governors are coming out from their various political parties to kick against this mode of primaries, if care is not taken, they will definitely have their way. How will the civil society organizations, which you are an integral part of, how will they ensure that this direct primaries is implemented to the letter?
Okay, if the president believes in the popular aspiration of Nigerians, if he believes in the true democracy, I think the president should not hesitate to assent the bill when the National Assembly eventually send it to him. Once the president assented to the bill, they have no, any legal power to undermine that. So I think what our advocacy is focusing now, since the National Assembly has done the needful, is to get the president to assent to this. And if the president refuses to assent to it, it means that the governors have succeeded in hijacking democracy in Nigeria.
Okay, well, let's look at a situation where the governors are now, they will now come up with a situation where they're talking of cost effectiveness. They say the direct primaries will be too much a financial burden for the political parties. Do you agree that that alone is enough not to adopt the direct primaries as a mode of selecting candidates for political parties?
No, look, anything that will undermine, the opportunity for members to participate in how their parties and their representatives, are choosing, it will be a very bad signal for any governor to undermine the popular wishes and aspiration of, not only, its party members, but also the nation at a large. Undemocratic, and members of their political parties have been complaining. So this is an opportunity for even the governors, if they believe in democracy, to actually, align with.
I think covered that in that second question. Well, it's like we've lost our guest again. That was the chairman of Transition Monitoring Group and executive chairman of CISLAC. Well, before we proceed, let's just quickly take a short break. And of course, as we do so, we expect that by the time we come back, we'll get most of your comments, because it has always helped in shaping the conversation on the big issue. We'll be back shortly.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Well, welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is APC, PDP, much ado about mode of primaries. And of course, we just had the chairman of Transition Monitoring Group and executive chairman of CISLAC, who actually gave us an insight into that particular decision taken by the National Assembly. And of course, it was a very nice one having him here on the studio. I will say a very big thank you to him. Well, you've heard what Rafsanjani has said. You see, KB State Governor, who is actually the chairman of Progressive Governors Forum, in kicking against direct primaries, said that the direct primaries will, by political parties, will overstretch the Independent National Electoral Commission. And of course, that seemed to be like crying more than the belief, because INEC itself has not said anything. Mr. Sellers, what do you think? Does it really amount to overstretching the electoral body?
I say, INEC, the primary interest is to have good elections conducted in Nigeria. INEC is a vehicle through which democracy works, and it has become clear that the system, the way it is, through support of unpopular candidates, because those who produce them, have a way of having their way against the will of the people. Okay, so INEC will be more than happy to monitor the process. If INEC can conduct election for the whole Nigeria, all over Nigeria, Nigerian election, you need to monitor political parties' activity that INEC cannot do. The only thing could do is just to increase its capacity and put it as part of their schedule. But it's only that should talk if INEC is feeling that
Going to be overstretched.
it's like crime and bereaved. It has not complained. And they are shouting us. So I don't think that one is valid until we hear from INEC.
Yes.
Everyone cannot do it, should tell us.
Looking at the cost
And
effective.
INEC has always known how to even hire ad hoc staff to carry out its activities, train them, and tell them exactly what to do.
And I think the
design it for them.
And I think INEC's role
the
there
party
is
should
not.
not be bothered.
And I think INEC's role there is not much of participating in the process itself. It's the role INEC plays is an observatory role, isn't it?
It should be.
Yes, and
It's not as if INEC is going to conduct the election by itself, but INEC will be able to see that the process of conducting election is followed.
yes.
That is not the kind of thing we used to have that just one place, write names of those they want and push it through. So that one should do.
That is
So
even,
I don't know what the government is talking about, but maybe if INEC says something, we'll know what to say about it.
well, but when you now look at the cost effectiveness too, so many people, I think even from the political parties and the governors, they are saying that INEC had said 100 billion naira would be too small to conduct the 2023 election. And so the idea that they are now bringing direct primaries that will be cost effective, but INEC choose a observatory role in a direct primaries. Will it consume much? Will it require much financial for on part of INEC? And they are saying that the parties too will incur more costs in conducting the primaries. Although Mr. Sanjani said that does not matter, because any process that is good will require money, and when money is spent and the process is good. So what do you think about it?
Well, I agree with Mr. Rafsanjani. In any case, if you check the amount of money they spend bribing delegates, if you put all of that together, you might go probably halfway through the whole process of using the direct primary approach. And elections are not cheap. If party members contribute the way they ought to and do what they ought to, I think if the process is a lot more open and people are desirous of doing the right thing, it might not be as expensive as people think. As for INEC, I think the bulk of what they would have to do is how to mobilize their people across the country to monitor, the process. Like Mr. Silas rightly said, they could get ad hoc staff to help the process. See, it's it's an everybody thing. It's not as if it's your thing or my thing. It's an everybody's thing. Because the end result is to produce the best set of people to manage affairs of the party or political offices. And what does that translate to? The urge or the need for proper governance. So if people begin to see that way, as against, oh, it's a party thing, let them do their thing, or oh, these people want to, So if there's a collective or a holistic view of what the whole process leads to, that this is not an end in itself, it's just a process towards an end. And what's the end? Ensuring that we have proper governance structure.
Yes.
That people will be ready to commit to it. And when people commit to things, cost becomes second. So that is where I am coming from. But initially I was trying to point out that at the end of the day, it's a matter of how it is, who manages the process and how they manage the process. It is also good that we are having this debate at this time. It's also helping. At least we've tried this pattern and we've seen the reforms. Let's see what this pattern has to offer. If for anything, let's see what this pattern has to offer. Yes, we played with it in 2019, and we also saw the differences. Perhaps we should interrogate that more. We should have a body of work, intellectual discourse on, or intellectual review on how the 2019 experience happened, and place it side, regardless of the controversies that happened. Because in most states, we almost had parallel thing because of power tussle and all of that. So maybe we could have a proper intellectual review of how it was conducted in 2019, so that it will help to identify the major pitfalls. Because the discourse now about the for and against is purely on politics and the need to retain power or to let go of power on both sides. Now, I'm not talking about just the governors alone, because those that are pushing for the direct primaries are those who feel they might not be able to stand up to the governors. And so they are looking for another means through which they can at least give themselves a fair shot at power. So perhaps if we deconstruct all the power tussle just for power's sake and do a critical intellectual discourse on, the two systems and analyze it properly, perhaps we might come up with something that's much, much better than this whole cloud of whether we should do this or do that. Because as it is now, most of the actions of these key political actors are driven by 2023, not necessarily driven by the need to have
a very strong electoral law.
Exactly. So I start to be corrected, but it seems to be driven by
Personal
the need
interest
to sustain power or to topple power for power's sake in 2023.
to maintain control of the party. But let's look at it now. Just like you rightly said, Chubuzo, it's all about they on the other side and they on the other side. The governors and those who don't want the governors to have that overbearing influence on the political party. And of course, we all know that is what the political parties have suffered. Because most times it is the governors with the financial muscle that will always come to determine. Just like they say, he who pays the piper cause the tune. But one of the arguments by the governor is that if you limit the abilities of parties to choose options that they so desire, it may even be arguably undemocratic. But between the governor's overbearing disposition on the parties and the direct primaries that allows the choice to be made by the majority of the people, which do you think will be more undemocratic or democratic?
Why I'm laughing is that even using the word undemocratic. What is the simplest definition of democracy? Government of people by the people for the people.
For the people.
In fact, government by mass participation. Government by people, more people choosing those who they want to rule them, being able to choose those. And the direct primaries allows more members of the party to decide who should stand as candidates, and they will also have the chance to assume leadership offices to rule them and rule the country, their party and the country. So you are opening the space for more participation for those who are cut off from the system, the youth, the women, the masses of the party. Before it was just a select few, like an oligarchy, a political oligarchy. They sit down, select themselves. Those who are able to motivate to some positions, they now go and choose people, whose choice may not be even on the general interest, but for some narrow interest of those who call the shots. Okay, but here you're allowing the space. Democracy always allows openness. In dictatorship, in tyranny and co, totalitarianism, the one that closes space and close out other people from participating in decision making in a governance system. And this direct primaries allows more people, to participate. So I don't know how allow more people to participate in the democracy makes it
undemocratic.
So I'm sure that they look for more. They will think of better reasons to. I heard these ones are not good enough. I read one book one time when they asked a young man, "Okay, why didn't you come to church?" He said he went to the village to do some, all these local parties. Is that the reason they are giving? He said, if you don't want that one, I can give you another one. so possibly they will still need to look for some other reasons that can. But to say it's undemocratic, it's like, what is this?
Well, that is the much we can take on the big issue. Now, the National Assembly has done its legislative work on the electoral bill by giving its nod to direct primaries as a mode of selecting candidates for political parties. And of course, I think now the ball is in the president's court. Will the president go ahead and sign that into law, or he will now bow to the whims and caprices of state governors who are fiercely against direct primaries as a mode of selection and election of candidates for political party? As time goes on, we will get to know. Thank you for keeping tab with us here, and of course, I must thank our in-house analysts for a job well done, Silas and Chibuzo, and of course, our guest, the chairman of Transition Monitoring Group, Mr. Musa Awal Rafsanjani. As usual, I am your regular host, George Agba. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of The Big Issue. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.